Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well. So I had an idea last night, you know when you're falling asleep and everything's running through your mind, and I had this idea to do a video or series of videos where I used a random generator to choose what pencils I'm using and also what colours to use. And I thought, what better to do than to include the new book, Worlds of Wonder by Johanna Basford, because it has lots of little things that are separate from each other that you can colour. So I thought what we'd do is every day I'm going to release a video of me colouring one of these elements from this page. There's 16 altogether. And for each element, I'm going to have the wheel choose what pencils I'm using and what 3 colours I'm allowed to use as well. So I've got the wheel set up here for each pencil set that I have. And then I've got another wheel on another tab that's got all the different colours to choose from. So it's just purely a bit of fun. It's one of them ideas that just came to me as I was falling asleep, and I thought that sounded like fun for you to watch as well as for me to do. So let's get started then. I'm really excited. I've put a list of everything that I've got to use pencils wise, so it's really up to this what happens. So here we go, tap to spin. So the pencils we are using on our first little emblem are, yep, it's Koh-i-Noor. So these are pencils I don't have a massive amount of practice with, but I'm excited to try, so I'll just pause it while I go and dig them out the drawer. Okay, so here they are. I've dug them out, and I've got a few different types of Koh-i-Noor. I think there's the Koh-i-Noor tritones, which have different colours in the leads, and then the Koh-i-Noor polycolours, which I have the most of, so I think we'll be going with the polycolours. So now I've got to go onto my different tab, and we'll choose 3 colours. So I'm going to spin it 3 times, and then it will decide what colours we are using. So I need a little pen to make a list. Oh, so we've got navy. Let me just write this down because I will definitely forget. So navy, and then spin it again. Orange, okay, so contrasting colours. And then one more. We could do 2 colours to really limit it, but I thought I'd give myself 3, so I've got something to fall back on. And then we've got blue greens. So I have put some sort of in-between shades in there so that we have more of a scope of what we can use. So we've got blue, green, orange and navy. So I'm going to have a look inside the pencil case, see what I can pull out. And hopefully this is not going to be boring or anything. I hope you enjoy it. I just thought it might be a little bit of fun, really. Sometimes we need to bring the fun back into colouring rather than worrying about what looks right and what doesn't and what colours, you know, are meant to go together and so forth. So navy, I'm just going to try and pick out the colours that I have. This one, oh, that one looks like a purple. Alright, so these are the colours that I've picked. I just need to test them. So this one is number 20. And then 55. They're quite similar actually. I think this one, 55, is more of a navy, but they are still quite light. And that's a purple. So let's go with, I think this one, the number 55, the one in the middle, because I think that first one is slightly more of an indigo. So we'll go for this one. So that's the first pencil chosen. This is not a quick process, is it? Then we need to look for orange. Okay, so there's our orange pencil. That is number 126. And then finally, blue-green. Okay, I reckon this is the closest we're going to find to a blue-green in that set. It is slightly more green than I'd like, but it's number 21. So the 3 colours that we have are navy, orange and blue-green, and I actually really like that palette. It's something different. It's not, you know, a mixture of colours that I would usually put together. So I'm going to give them a sharpen and we'll be off. So I think what would make it even more interesting is if I choose one of these that I think will go quite well with the colour palette instead of doing it one by one. So I'm looking at this ship in a bottle and I'm thinking we've got the blue for the sky and we've also got a greenish blue for the water, and we can do our ship in orange. So I think that's what I'm going to do today. So I'll zoom in And like I said, this is not really anything technical. There's no tutorial really in this. It's just watching me colour, listening to me waffle on, and hopefully just having a bit of enjoyment out of it. So I'm going to start off with the sky then. We've got our blue, our navy blue, which is number 55 in the Polycolour range. And I'm very simply just going to colour around the clouds at the top, and then just get a little bit lighter as we go in towards the ship, so it creates a bit of a glow, a bit of a halo around the ship. So I'm just using small circle scumbling techniques. As I say, I'm not very proficient with these pencils. They do feel really nice on this paper though. Mind you, this paper is fantastic, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find a pencil that doesn't respond well to this paper. But I've got that many different pencils, it's very difficult for me to snap out of the ones that I'm so used to using. So obviously, you know, Prismacolors are my favourite, and I do use them on a lot of projects, but I thought a project like this it'd be fun, but it'd also be a way for me to get out of using the pencils and the brands that I normally use, get out my comfort zone a little bit and see what else these have to offer, because they're no good sat in a drawer, and I think it's a real shame that they're not getting used properly. So this is a good project for that, and a good thing for you guys to do if you feel the same, if you've got a few different art supplies sort of stacking up and you're kind of in your comfort zone of using the ones that you know best, the colours that you know best, and you know how they work and how they feel to use. So something like this might be a good idea, just to stretch yourself a little bit and get all those pencils in use. So these are quite soft pencils. They're not crumbly or buttery like you would describe a Prismacolor, but they are soft. I feel like these are the kinds of pencils, I mean, all pencils really should be sharp when you're using them, but I feel like these are the kinds of pencils that have to stay sharp in order for you to get the best out of them. I hope I've not contradicted myself, but it feels like if you let these go blunt, you're going to have some really patchy areas. So I'm trying to turn my pencil all the time just to keep that point, because as I say, they are quite soft, so I feel like I'm losing that needle point quite quickly. But they do feel strong though, so that's a tick in the pro column for these pencils. As we go through these, I'd love to know your thoughts on the pencils that I'm using. So if Kohinoor Polycolours are amongst your collection and you use them a lot, or you've tried them and you don't like them, it'd be good to strike up conversation in the comments about that. And I'm always interested to hear what everyone else has to say and opinions on supplies and things. So I feel like these are soft, but I think they respond better to layering. Usually with soft pencils you can get in there and burnish straight away, but again I feel like I get patchy results if I tried to go too hard too fast. So I'm just trying to keep it really light, darken up the edge, and then just gradually get lighter as we go towards the middle. So I'm being very, very light as I come up against the ship. I don't really want to leave any complete white on the page, so I'm just using the lightest hand possible to get a little bit of pigment in between the sails of the ship. If you wanted to know the name of the generator that I'm using to choose the colours and things, I'll leave a link in the description. It's totally free. You just type a list of colours or books or anything you want to choose from, and it will randomly spin the wheel and choose one for you. and you can keep spinning it, and you can remove them as well. I'll be removing the polycolours from the wheel next time so that we have a chance to use the other pencils, but obviously I'll keep the colours the same. Okay, so I might come back in at the end and darken the edges or smooth that out a little bit more. But for now, I'm going to leave it as is, she says, and then she just continues to colour. I've got this syndrome where I just can't leave things alone and then I overdo it. Okay, so going to leave that for now, can always come back. Next up, let's get started with the ship. So I said I'm going to do that orange. Now, of course, we've only got 3 pencils to choose from, and I could have made it a bit easier on myself by choosing a lighter orange and then an orange and a darker orange, just to get some difference in there. But I think I quite like just having this restricted palette, and I'm intrigued to see how it's going to turn out just using sort of solid colours. So I'm just going to do exactly the same thing, and just graduate from a dark to a light. Now, obviously, because I'm not using other colours to blend, that's my only real way of colouring these, is just to go from dark to light. I could solidly colour them, but it's not very dynamic to do that. So I'm going to be using pretty much the same technique, where we're just going from a harder pressure into a lighter one, and almost the white of the paper showing at the edge. If I did have more colours to play with, we would probably do different blends and things, but this is what we're going to do this time. Just see how it turns out. It's something different. I think you can get stuck in a rut with your colouring sometimes, I do anyway, and little exercises like this that have no pressure behind them and you don't have to worry about colours and things, it can really help just inspire you. So like I said, I wouldn't have necessarily chosen these 3 colours together, but now I kind of have no choice. I'm sort of appreciating how good they look together, or hopefully will look together when we've done this. I think just having the choice taken out of your hands, it can help sometimes, because if you're anything like me, you can sort of debate and deliberate over, you know, what colours you're going to use and what colour should this be and that be, and you know, it just takes the fun out of it. So let's see what happens with this anyway. So these do feel quite waxy. I don't know if they are, I think they must be wax based. They do feel quite waxy, and like I say, I feel like they could get a little bit patchy and a little bit where layers start to build up on each other and it just doesn't feel nice on the paper. So I think I'd definitely use these again, but I think the paper is a massive factor. There's a lot of pencils that it really matters what paper you use, and there are some pencils where it doesn't matter so much. So I think it's a challenge to yourself sometimes to use certain pencils because they just handle differently. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the blue-green, which is a bit more of a green really, but it's the best I could find. And we'll do the waves like this. So I'm going to, I think, do the waves in a graduated blend from bottom to top of each line, each section. So let's start off darker here at the bottom of the section. Every time I've coloured with these, the end just pops off. It does kind of keep a strong, they feel like strong pencils, but that end bit just seems to pop off. So I'm starting quite dark and heavy towards the line itself, and then as we go up to the top, we'll just get a bit lighter with the pressure. Obviously these are quite small emblems, so if I had a bigger space to work with, it will probably look better, but this is the challenge I've set, this is the gauntlet I've laid down, so I'm going to have to stick to it and do my best. With these pencils being so soft, I've noticed as I've brushed them, which you definitely should not do with my hand, it has sort of smudged a little bit and left a few marks. So soft pencils usually do that. It doesn't have an awful lot of debris though, so that's good. What I tend to do if I can't find my little brush is I'll just dab it off or blow it. So in the future, when I'm doing other emblems on this page, I'm hoping that I'll get a couple of spins of the wheel that give me colours that will blend nicely together. Obviously blue and orange are completely opposite colours, so I'm not going to get any kind of decent blend out of those. Otherwise I might be using a different tone in these waves to blend, but obviously we don't have that this time. We'll have to see what the Wheel of Fortune brings next time. So I'm just trying to make these waves look as even as possible. Darkening some areas up towards the edge. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So the clouds are quite difficult because obviously we don't have many colours to play with, but what I'm thinking of doing is just doing a very, very light glaze of this navy blue, because I think that's the closest kind of colour that we're going to get to a cloudy colour. So I've got my hand right back at the other end of the pencil, so I'm not going to be able to make any heavy pressured lines. And I'm laying the side of the pencil to the paper flat and just moving my hand backwards and forwards like this, just to give a little bit of pigment onto the paper. So nothing major. I don't really know whether you'll be able to see on camera because it is so light. And I'm just going to turn the book around so that I've got this kind of range of motion in the wrist to do it, which makes it a lot easier. So that's a really nice light feathered touch on the clouds there. So now I've got the cork of the bottle. Now clearly I would use a brown or something for that. The closest I've got is orange, but I don't particularly want to use just orange. Now usually when you have two colours that are opposite each other on the colour wheel, when you try and mix them together you get a really kind of muddy colour, almost like a brown, which is perfect for the cork. So I'm going to jump in and see if that works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I've not lost anything. It's just an experiment. So what I'm going to do is, I think, lay the lightest colour down first, which is the orange. And then over the top, I'm going to lay the blue. And we'll see if we get a brown colour. Hopefully we will. So I've got a bit of orange laid down there. Let's go in with the blue. It might be that I have to layer them a couple of times before we get a muddy colour. the moment it's just looking a bit granular and separated. I'll come back in with the orange. A bit of a harder pressure. So we're getting a bit of a brownish tone. It's definitely muddy anyway. I can't really see it resembling any other colour than a muddy brown. But I'm just going to keep putting a few little layers on top of each other and hopefully get it a little bit smoother. Not that cork is particularly smooth anyway, but we can always say that that's the intended texture. And then I'll finish with just another layer of orange. With that being our lighter colour, it's quite good to use that as the blender or the burnisher at the end. If you did it with the blue, we'd end up with a much darker, probably blue predominant finish. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think we've made a nice brown there. Okay, and for the bottle itself, I mean, we could leave it white, but I might just do a little bit of very light navy just on certain areas. So just as I did with the cloud, very, very light and only in certain areas. So we have the white on some of the bottle and then we have the blue on others, and it might just give us a bit of a look of glass, hopefully anyway. I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to let myself use black, white or white gel pen as an add-on. I don't think I'll need to on this particular one, but maybe I'll change my mind on future projects. I'm going to do a little bit on the end of the bottle and a little bit on the neck of the bottle here. Now that may be too light for you to properly see. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but hopefully the look of it is there. I think it looks pretty cool. I was saying at the start that I might go back in and deepen this up, but I can see that the layering on these pencils isn't perfect, and I'm starting to get areas where it's kind of darker splodges than other areas, and it's going to be quite difficult for me to buff them out of the way, so to speak. Once they're there, they're there. That's how I feel these pencils work. So maybe not perfect for layering these Koh-i-Noors, but they are definitely very pigmented and saturated with colour. And they are quite nice to use. I just think that they have their limit on layers, and you do have to be quite light with them. But I think I'm going to leave that there. So hopefully you have enjoyed this and you will enjoy the future videos. I'll put them all as a playlist when they're all uploaded. So if you're watching this into the future and I've already completed all of these, if you look in the description, there will be a link to the whole playlist. If you're looking in the description the day after I've done this one, all you're going to find is the links to the wheels and possibly not much else. If you're coming into this video and I'm part of the way through, if you just click on my channel, you should be able to see all the other ones I've done. But this is part one, done and dusted. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.